today we will discuss what is a story and what are some elements of a story. So by now I hope all of you are familiar with what is a story. Okay, we have covered 2-3 stories by now, and we have talked about how we can read such a stories critically, but now we would focus on how we can develop and write such a story. Okay, so for that we need to understand what are some elements, and then we would discuss each of them separately as well. Can you think of or can you tell me what could be some elements of a story? Any ideas? What are some essential things or what are some main things for a story? When, let's say, for example, I ask you to make a story, what would be few things that you would keep in your mind and think about? Anyone?
Ma'am, characters?
Character,
Yes?
conflict, theme,
Characters, setting, very good.
theme,
Theme, okay, nice.
Point of view.
Point of view, theme, okay, nice. Okay, let's find out in detail what could be some other elements of a story. Okay, listen to this video very carefully, and then there would be quiz following that and vocabulary as well. If you don't understand anything, please ask.
Check it out, yo. Yeah. Setting, that's like where it's going down. Could be the train compartment, a castle, or a town. Could be the Arctic winter, like to build a fire. The temperature's dropping, excitement's getting higher. Setting sets the scene, so the scene seems set. Could be an Italian restaurant where we met. Setting gives us the where and the when. Could be modern day, the future, or way back when. Plot, character, conflict, theme, setting. Yes, these are the 5 things that you're gonna be needing when you're reading or writing a short story that's mad exciting. Plot is the action, the quest for satisfaction. What's going down, what's going to happen? 4 men at sea in an open boat, rowing and hoping that they can stay afloat. The plot, they had to make it to the beach, but the waves are big and the shore seems out of reach. Plot is a series of events like Lemony Snicket. It could be crazy, wild, or straight wicked. Plot, character, conflict, theme, setting. Yes, these are the 5 things that you're gonna be needing when you're reading or writing a short story that's mad exciting. Knock, knock. Oh, it's the characters, the people in the story who carry out the action. Characters can be pretty tiny or clean. Characters can be silly, whiny, or mean. Juliet is a character and so is Romeo. Pokemon has characters and so does Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters can be dogs, lions, or hippos. J.K. Rowling chose Harry Potter. Who knows? Character, conflict, theme, setting. Yes, these are the 5 things that you're gonna be needing when you're reading or writing a short story that's mad exciting. Put your snack back in your backpack, we're not finished. Something gone wrong. That's the conflict, kids. A struggle in the plot, now who's on top? Could be a fight for money like some robbers and cops. Could be an internal conflict, a struggle inside. Like I don't wanna tell the truth, but I don't ever wanna lie. Flick something in your eye, now you're conflicted. What created drama? The conflict did. Plot, character, conflict, theme, setting. Yes, these are the 5 things that you're gonna be needing when you're reading or writing a short story that's mad exciting. The theme of the story is the main idea, the central belief or the topic that's in there. It's usually something abstract like sacrifice, isolation, and resurrection. We back to life. Like don't lie, don't practice libel. The theme of To Build a Fire is survival. Survivor on your own like 5-0. What? Flocabulary, something that you have to get. Character, conflict, theme, setting. Yes, these are the 5 things that you're gonna be needing when you're reading or writing a short story that's mad exciting.
So how was the video? I hope it was audible and clear to all of you. I was glad that you were able to recognize the elements. Okay, and there are just 5 elements in a story, and the video explained all of them very clearly. So all of you understand what are those 5 elements of a story?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can someone tell me what is the plot?
Ma'am, the main idea of a story.
Okay. The main idea are like what that would like more close to theme. Okay, so by plot we mean mainly the series of events in a story. All right, so like we build up a story they came, they mate, and like they fall in love or something like that, or whatever. So what series of events take place, that would be the plot of the story. All right. Okay, can someone tell me what is conflict?
Ma'am, it create a drama in a story.
Okay, someone else? Someone else would like to define conflict? You guys can type or you guys can tell. Okay, fight or clash. Okay, that conflict would be somehow related to a plot twist. Okay, so it like when we see or when we read a story, like let's say when we are watching a movie or a drama, so that also has some kind of story. Okay, so there would be a plot, सब कुछ सही सही चल रहा होता है, and then there is a some kind of a conflict, because life also has conflict. Nothing is like straightforward. So that's how dramas and stories are also built. So the conflict is often a very important element of a story. Okay, then we had characters. Characters are pretty simple. The people and like maybe animals are all the characters in a story. Okay, afterwards we have setting. Setting is also very simple. Can someone define what is setting?
Ma'am, physical location.
Okay, very good. By
And
setting we
ma'am,
would mean,
time, action.
right, very good. By setting we would mean where and when. Okay, so physical place and what time the story is, narrated, and all that. So setting would include where and when. Okay, what was the last thing?
Ma'am, theme.
Okay, so what is the theme?
Message of the story means central idea.
Okay, central idea would again be, like we'll have to tell this about the story as well. By theme, we would mean like in a word. Let's say, for example, I'm writing a story on honesty. Okay, so I'm not telling you like the summary or the central idea of my story, but I would say my story is based on honesty. So honesty is the theme of my story. All right. Similarly, there could be any theme like maybe love or betrayal, or let's say there could be any theme we can write on the story. Maybe we write a story on social issues. Okay, can someone tell me what was the theme of the story we read, 34th Gate? Anyone? Murder. Okay, that could be one way to look at it. Someone else? What was the theme of the story, 34th Gate? Corruption. Okay, nice. You can look at
Ma'am,
the story from your
injustice.
view. Injustice. Okay. Carelessness of the authorities.
Ab- about our system.
Okay, right. It was about a system and what were the loopholes of the system. So all these, like, we can look at the story from our point of view, and like we can recognize what the theme is. Let's do vocabulary first, then we would come forward to read and respond to the quiz. Okay. I hope it was pretty simple. This was the vocabulary. I don't think there is anything in particular to discuss. So we would just skip this vocab game, and we would come here and we would see examples of all these 5 elements. Okay, so please be attentive and quickly respond. So it's talking about, this question is about setting, and we know that setting is all about when and where. Okay, that's what we talked about. Location, time of the day, weather, all these parts of a story setting. So it would include location, what time of the day it is, what is the weather. So all the physical situation around the story, that would be included in setting. Okay. The best setting description often include details that use at least some of the 5 senses. So when we are writing a story, Okay, please focus on all this, because in this semester I will ask you guys to write a story by your own. All right, so you have to be careful of all these elements. So when we are like we say, okay, we must have a setting in a story. So इसका मतलब ये नहीं होगा कि आप सिर्फ ये बता दें कि okay, it was evening and then it was the 20th of December and that's it. आपने you have to give details of every scene. Okay, in a story, like you would define different scenes. तो फिर उन scenes को आप like you to connect to the reader, you have to give some details, and it can use at least one of the five senses. So like maybe you are telling about how it smelled, okay, how it looked, or how it sounded, or how it felt. Okay, so you can refer back to the stories that we have covered. We did the story A Day's Wait. Okay, we saw that there were lots of details about the environment, okay, and how the boy felt shivering, and what kind of setting was there. Okay, and then when his father went for hunting, and there was a particular description of outside environment at that time. So these all things would include in setting. Okay, so you just don't have to be very explicit कि बस okay, this is the setting. आपने उसको define करना है and describe करना है. All right, let's see this example. Okay, read this passage of a story, and which of the following details contain a description of story setting. Okay, so read this passage and tell me which part is talking about the setting. You can send me your answer from A, B, C, or D in privately in chat. Everyone, please respond. I want all of you to answer the question. So most of you think it's C. Let's try this. Very good. Okay, so you get the idea. Okay, now this is about plot. So plot is a term for the events that take place in a story. Okay, so the term for events or the series of events and how they relate to each other. When we summarize a story, we usually are describing a plot. Okay, so in writing a summary, we are actually talking about what events took place in a story. A good summary of story plot includes three main elements: conflict, climax, and resolution. Okay, so there was a conflict, and then there was turn of events, and then there was a resolution. Okay, so read this passage and choose the best summary of fairy tale's plot. Okay, so this is a passage from fairy tale. This is a fairy tale, and then you have to tell what could be the best summary of this. Quickly read it. Come on, quickly. What's the answer? Like, what's the best choice? Okay, some of you think it's B, some of you think it's A. What about other people? Okay, most of you think it's A, so let's find out. It's the right answer. Okay, because it is telling in detail the main idea, like the climax and conflict, and then resolution. Okay, the people who thought it's B, it's like a very rare statement. It's not talking about the whole story. It's just talking about the story till the beanstalk. Okay, so you have to be careful in writing or reading about the summaries, that it should be comprehensive enough. Okay, now we have character. Character is simply somebody in a story. Okay, that's pretty simple. Characters can be humans, animals, or any other sort of creatures, any fictional creatures. Okay, what's the difference between fiction and non-fiction? Anyone? Do you guys know what's the difference between fiction and non-fiction?
Ma'am, I think fiction include the imagination.
Okay, that's right. By fiction, we mean something imaginative or something that is not true. Okay, so most of the stories that we read, let's say novels from fiction genre, or like we see dramas, until they are based on a true story, we would say that they are fiction. Okay, so there's no element of truth in them, like they are just made up stories out of imagination. And then imagination can be very real, Like for example, we see dramas in television. They are based on real like society, real environment, but they are imaginative stories. तो जिस तरह से वहां पे पोर्ट्रे हुआ होता है वो किसी के साथ असल में नहीं हुआ होता. This is just imaginative. But similarly, there can be true stories, and those true stories are called non-fiction. Okay, so there could be a lot of other elements included in non-fiction. When we are writing an essay, let's say for example, so that would be non-fiction. There is a book on political writing and depicting the social environment, so that would all be non-fiction, which is based on facts. तो जिसमें हम लोग रिसर्च करके या फिर हम लोग की सोसाइटी के फैक्ट्स बता के we define or write, or there is something that is based on a true story. अगर मेरी जिंदगी पे कोई बुक लिख रहा है तो biography or anything such as, so that would be included in non-fiction. Okay, so fiction means imaginative or made up. So that could again be very creative. That might not be even related to real life from any point of view. For example, हम लोग कोई cartoon stories पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें होती हैं like which are very much imaginative and not even possible in real life. So those kind of creatures that would also be characters. Okay, so there is one main character and then there are secondary characters in a story. Okay, so according to the passage, secondary characters. What about other people? Come on, quickly. Okay, most of you think it's D. Let's check out. Okay, that's the right answer. So it's not important that only main characters is memorable. Oftentimes we also like fall in love, or we also like or are influenced by side characters or secondary characters. Okay, now there is an example for conflict. Conflict is a kind of a problem in a story. There are things that the main characters wants or needs to do, then there are things that get in the way of doing that. Okay, so that's usually the conflict. Read this passage quickly, and then we would see which of the following best describes the conflict in the passage. So just skim through the story and then we would come to the options. Done, everyone? So look at the options now and tell me which one is the best description of a conflict in the story. So what is something the main character wants but something gets in the way and she cannot do that? So what's the option? Okay, what about other people? Okay, so most of you think it's C. That's the right answer. Very good. Okay, so she wanted to do ice skating, but they had to visit their aunt. Okay, there are external conflicts and internal conflicts in a story. An external conflict is a problem that comes from the world around the character. An internal conflict is struggle inside a character's mind. Okay, so when there is a conflict inside one's personality or inside the mind of the main character, that is internal conflict. Okay, and when the outside environment or outside circumstances influence it, that is called external conflict. According to the passage, which of the following characters would be facing an internal conflict? So look at the example and find out the example for internal conflict. Quickly, everyone. Okay, what about other people? Okay, it's pretty simple. All of you think it's C. Okay, because we see in all other examples, all other options, we have some external environment influencing. That's the right answer. Very good. Okay, now we're talking about theme. Is the author's message about the world? Okay, the theme goes beyond the specific details of one story. So we discussed this that whenever we are talking about theme, it is not necessary to give details of the story. We can just talk about a universal topic such as friendship, honesty, freedom, loneliness, or anything. All right. So when I ask you what is the theme of a story, you don't necessarily tell me what were the details or what happened in the story. You can just tell me what do we learn from the story. Okay, what is the message or the idea? Okay, so read this summary and tell me what's its theme. Okay, what about other people? Most of you think D is the most appropriate one. Let's check out. It was not D, it's B. Let's submit the quiz, and we were 83 because we scored 5 out of 6.